Okay, so I just watched Synchronic. Okay, it's on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. It stars Jamie Dornan and Anthony Mackie. This is a great movie. I highly recommend this to anybody. I almost didn't watch it. It just didn't look interesting to me. I've never been like a Jamie Dornan fan, but it's well worth it. So let me tell you what it's about. So the story is these two paramedics, and they're working a series of apparent ODs and some really strange drug-related injuries. Okay, so we're, as an audience, we're figuring out, okay, this drug that they introduced at the beginning of the movie called Synchronic causes this really strange behavior. In a slight way that's not overly obvious, there seems to be really quick time jumps, and there's also some very aggressive editing. But it doesn't affect the storytelling one bit. I mean, I didn't even overly acknowledge it. I just thought to myself, oh, is this all happening in the same timeline or not? But it wasn't like Memento style over-the-top timeline jump, and it was very slight, and you couldn't tell if they were going back to the past and doing it differently, or if this was just a commentary on the mundane routine of kind of their life, despite the fact that they're paramedics. Anyway, it's obvious without being overly obvious or confusing. So keep that in mind. I'm just watching it, you're watching it, it's easy. And anyway, so I made note of that. The one character, Jamie Dornan, he's in a troubled marriage with a teenage daughter and a newborn. And the other character, Anthony Mackie, he's a lifelong, single guy, and he's actually diagnosed with a brain tumor. So these are the two characters going throughout this world. And the world that the directors build is very uneasy. The interactions that they have with their, police colleagues at these crime scenes and everything, there's a weird, uneasy tension constantly that you never really can put your finger on. It really grounds it in this gritty reality, and really takes me in. On one 911 call that the paramedics go on, the character discovered that Jamie Dornan's daughter is missing. So this obviously devastates his marriage, and that's where kind of his arc goes. And then it's Anthony Mackie figures out that everyone's taking this same drug, Synchronic, and he tracks this drug down, which is now discontinued everywhere, because it's one of these synthetic drugs you can buy at a dispensary, but now they're being discontinued. So he buys the remainder of them with the intention of getting rid of them, because he's sick of seeing all of these victims everywhere. But it turns out he figures out that because of his brain tumor, this drug can affect him in a certain way. And the way it affects him is that it allows him to travel through time. Now, I'm not going to say anything else about the plot because that would go into spoilers. So that's generally the movie. Here's a couple notes that I thought were really cool. When you do this and you go back in time, you are transported somewhere in time in the exact spot where you're standing. So early on, we see someone take this in an elevator, and then he's transported back, and there's this desert, and he's just falling, because obviously he was transported like 30 stories up. There's no guarantee of when you'll be. So unless you stand in the same spot, which guarantees you go to the same place, anywhere you are, and you take this pill, you can be anywhere back in time. You can't control it in the slightest. What's very interesting is that it is uncomfortably unsafe every time Anthony Mackie travels back in time. Okay? I think they say he's there for like 7 minutes, but it is never a good situation for him. In one instance, he almost dies right away after going back to the Ice Age. And he just stands there and he's just freezing. So what this movie does that I find very fascinating is it takes the romance of time travel away. Whenever these time travel movie happens or the conversations happen with friends about time travel, it's always something positive and good. But every time he goes back, it is a negative thing. It is bad. It is dangerous. As the audience, you are uncomfortable and you want him to be able to get out of there. And you realize, oh, that would be the reality of time travel. It is not safe. And actually, on this, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it must be because these directors seem brilliant, is the fact that it's Anthony Mackie and he's a black man makes you extra uncomfortable because you realize beyond the most recent history of existence, it has been incredibly dangerous to be a black man in this world. So every time he goes back in time, he is a ready to be attacked for the fact that he's black, and he cannot blend in. It is impossible for him to blend in the way somebody, a white person could in all these scenarios. And what's great is the movie doesn't double down on this and hammer you with it and be like, this is a social commentary we're making. It doesn't do that at all. It makes you realize this is just the reality of true time travel and what would happen if Anthony Mackie went back. And that's it. There's no beating you over the head or anything like that. It allows you as an audience to absorb this mentally, subconsciously, and interpret. And then you make an inference and say, Jesus, it was never safe for a black man in this world. I mean, obviously it would be dangerous in all these situations for anybody, but more so, like, there's a Deep South, part. And obviously you can just put two and two together there where how dangerous that is. So I thought that was really interesting that they didn't hammer it down. I love how much they're respecting the audience's intelligence on this. I mean, other than me, I have no intelligence, but I figured it out somehow. It somehow takes all these items, and it doesn't, like the idea of time travel and death and monotony of time and the non-existence of time, and the director never lets their own philosophies be known. They're not pushing any kind of agenda or commentary on what the implications of existence is if time is memoriam and circular and not linear. So that allows you, the audience member, to just, it's almost like they're a journalist just giving you the information and you do what you want with it. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So you're really left to decide if this is how time is, constantly existing in parallel with each other. What does that mean for our own existence? I love this stuff. I give this an 8.5 out of 10. It's well worth your time. Just check it out. Check it out. Time is not real.